This is the Crew Motorfest. We're here on Xbox Series S. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. If you are buying this game or any game on the Xbox Store, the affiliate link in the video description takes you to the Microsoft Store, and it helps support the content on the channel. So, on the Series S, what are we getting? Well, it's a single performance mode. So on the other platforms, you would go to start, you'd go to options, you'd go to video, and you would have an option to kind of change. There's the HDR settings are there. But no, this one is dynamic 1080p at 60 FPS. And you know what? Not a bad option. That's actually a pretty good choice for this game. Now, you will notice that obviously the visual fidelity will dip a bit. I've noticed some things here or there, but this is also like the beta demo of the game. So I would say this is a pretty achievable, decent, actually maybe punching above its option and weight class sort of choice for the Series S. But I have noticed that it does seem to have some dips and stuff. But it is a good marker for this platform, or well, this console, to be kind of aiming towards. So I think this is actually a pretty solid way to play it. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do sort of, like a two-option split thing, like a 1440-30 and like 1080-60 is typically what we get. But like honestly, it's like a small gap of like resolution, so it's sort of like I would still probably prefer to go with the the more likely to achieve 60 FPS option if that were the case. But I'm happy that this one does provide a 60 FPS kind of thing by default here. I think that's kind of nice, even if it is, I think even as you're perhaps seeing, like not necessarily perfectly in that regard hitting that, but yeah, it's a good option actually. So good for Series S on that front. So this game got a streamer mode for, music and stuff, which I always appreciate. Thank you so much, Ubisoft. And it is the open world of Hawaii. So the main Crew games, if you're not familiar with them, take place across the open country, America. It's a kind of the American Motorfest experience. And now we've gotten what is a vocational type thing, where it is essentially being like, it's tapping into the Forza Horizon of it. Let's be real here. This, like, you're constantly feeling like Forza Horizon when you're playing this. It's not quite at that level, but it's still a pretty fun racing game. Kind of like the Crew goes on vacation. What? 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 I guess I was frozen in place by that ice cream truck. Better watch out, Sweet Tooth is a rampaging. That would have been better for the PlayStation video if that would have dropped. Yeah, that would have been pretty funny. But yeah, you know what? It's like a pretty big, expansive offering. If you're looking for something to kind of fill that like Horizon void for a little bit, I think this is actually a pretty solid option and offering, which has cross-play, cross-progression, because I learned that when I was playing on the PS5, that all of my stuff was there, and all of my progression is carrying forward between the versions. Day-night cycle, there's weathering and atmospherics, there's like lightning, and there's rain stuff, and it's got all the stuff that you would expect, and you get to learn a little bit about like the area of Hawaii if you'd like to with some of the different areas. So if you're not familiar with the game in general, you'll have these things called playlists, and these playlists will allow you to play story things that are like an hour and a half, depending on how good you are and how much stuff is in them. And, these are things like the Porsche Legacy, which is what we're doing. There's the Electric Odyssey, where it's like electric vehicles. There's the vintage vehicles, and they got like a different visual tone to them. Like the electric cars, you have to make sure they don't get damaged because electric cars are fragile. And the Porsche cars are more like serious racing, where you're not supposed to damage the cars. And then there's like lots of open world activities and events, and it's a seamless multiplayer world, so you can experience the game with like others in different ways, and compete and play and drive about. And yeah, but it's not just driving, you can also on the fly. Literally fly. That's right, the game has the option to press the right stick in, and you can be like a plane, a boat, a car at any point you'd like. And that really dynamically changes how you kind of interact with the world. Like, you literally can do this stuff. From this being like a beta, I haven't really noticed a whole lot of opportunity for like doing boat racing or plane racing. I only had two, kind of like one racing, one, you know, for planes, one for boats, and that's all I've seen. So hopefully the full game has more. It's supposed to be something like 20 something playlists, so the game's going to be pretty chunky. And if it is anything like, well, basically the Crew 2, I would imagine that this game will experience a healthy selection of, you know, kind of content updates and support, because that one most certainly did. And don't worry, I'm sure we'll get to day racing in a sec as soon as we get to where this next objective marker is located in the world. So the world is like filled with activities and things. Like, don't let the size of the Hawaiian area kind of fool you. Let it fuel you. Feel the fire. But, like, it is actually pretty big, and it does seem like there is a lot that you can do within it. And I feel like when they give us the full thing, like, this basically just seems like a big tease of the game. You know what I mean? Like, you are getting a lot here. Oh, there's the Demolition Royale. That's kind of cool. So you are getting a big showcase of the game. Oh, there's rocks. Okay, I don't know why we didn't have lights on for the plane, but alright. Oh, we've only got 6 seconds of rewind. Okay, we're gonna have to get a reset on this one. I think it's supposed to be like rewind. Like, usually I think it's like you double tap and then, yeah, sorry, we got really stuck there. Don't drive a plane in the dark and transform into a car and, you know, hope that you're gonna land properly, because that's just it's not realistic. But yeah, it is like a love of cars and vehicles, and, you know, there's all this different stuff in this game. Like, there's actually quite a lot to it, and it's all integrated into like multiplayer elements, and you get to go to the different places. You can drive up to like giant volcanic mountains, as you see in the distance. There's like open crop fields of pineapples and giant pineapple structures and stuff too everywhere, and then, you know, the beautiful beaches, and you can just kind of hang out and have a good time as you enjoy the scope and the design of Motorfest. But yeah, you know, I think like visually and stuff, it's not too bad looking. Like, it does get a little bit murkier, and, you know, there are some of the performance elements, but like for the most part, the Series S here I think is actually delivering something that like feels and looks pretty good. Like, I wasn't really sure what to deliver with the series, or what to expect in deliverance with the Series S, but like, it's always a fun surprise, this console. It genuinely always is. You literally never know what you're going to get. I think that's quite half the fun of it, is kind of diving in and being like, okay, let's see what the developers gave us. But the whole scope of the experience is here. It's just kind of like visually toned down. But I think if you're used to what the Series S kind of delivers, this will actually be a really nice looking game for you. You know, it definitely is pretty impressive. I think just a little bit more tuning for performance to smooth it out a little bit further. But yeah, this is a pretty good offering from Ubisoft. I mean, they tend to deliver on that front, so I'm not too shocked about it, but it's always, like I said, a bit of a gamble seeing what we end up with on the Series S here. But it's got all the stuff of racing games that you would expect, you know, like you can do like the rewinding, there's the different like vehicle perspectives, there's some car customization stuff, there's buying additional cars, there's doing all these different races and all these different disciplines. Like, that's kind of cool about this one, is like you can do like, you know, we've got Porsche and then electric, and there's like 600 something cars, and your cars get imported from the Crew 2, which is kind of cool. And then there's also like, you know, ATVs, there's motorbikes, we mentioned like the planes, and me driving off into the distance of the road, and the boats. So there's lots to do in this game. That's the biggest thing, is if you're kind of wondering, you know, scale-wise in that, there is a lot that you can experience and enjoy in this one. Oh, come on. This is why we go back in time, guys. This is why we go back in time a bit. Too aggressive on that drift? Yeah, still too aggressive on that drift. And then depending on what kind of racing you're doing, it's either a bit more competitive or a bit easier going, and your goals and stuff change, so that's kind of nice. But I think there's a lot to love in this one. Ugh. Is it quite at the level of Horizon? Like I said, I don't really feel so, but like at the same time, this would actually be a really nice kind of accompanying experience to, you know, Horizon. I think this would be good for, because it's kind of like an off year for that series. So I think this one would kind of, in my opinion, kind of fill that void nicely. So that should be good. And yeah, it's just kind of like filled with stuff too. Obviously, these more intensive scenes, you see it getting a lot murkier, but not bad for the Series S. I'm glad when developers actually take the time to give us like a decent frame rate mode, because I'm like, I know this console can kind of do it, and it's just, it feels like they don't really push it to try to do that kind of thing, and that is always kind of disappointing. But for this one, I think Series S owners will be happy with this one so far. I mean, we'll have to see the full scope of the game, but like I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to generally play quite like this demo because it is so close to the launch, but I could see the Series S, in comparison to having tried this out on, you know, PS5 and Series X already, I could see that they would maybe spend a little bit more time optimizing this one, just to kind of hit those performance targets, or like, honestly, for Series S, it's probably fine enough for performance. I'm not too bothered by this. Like, I think it is fun. You know, it's fun. It's easy going. It's action-packed. You can fly around. You can boat around. You can have a good time on this one. I think most people that do play this will have a pretty good time with it. I'm just wondering what else this game has to it. Because, like I said, I guess I didn't mention it this time, but, you know, having checked this out on different platforms, like, I have played, like, a lot of this. I've seen a lot of it. So it's more like I'm hoping, or I'm kind of excited for more things to dig into. And you can customize and pick your characters. So the beginning's got like a cool intro sort of cinematic. Like if you've seen the Forza games, the Forza Horizon titles, it opens kind of like that where you're driving through all this stuff. So like, I just kind of picked a character because I'm like, oh, it's a beta, it doesn't matter. But now I'm kind of thinking the fact that this has like crossplay and stuff like that, and like cross progression, I'm sort of like, okay, so there is some customization. I'm hoping I can completely redo my character, but I just kind of picked one because I'm like, oh, it's a beta, who cares? You know, and I gotta spend your 20 minutes customizing my character for a beta. But I never really read into it, so I honestly don't know if anything carries, but it is a good taste of the game, essentially, is what I'm trying to say, is I've gotten a pretty good idea of this one. It's more just like seeing the final full scope of it, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm about good for like even getting closer to like final coverage on stuff, I would say at this point, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I never expected to spend so much time playing betas as I have, due to doing the work I do nowadays, the reviews and streams. It's I guess it's mostly the streaming that causes that, and the type of video stuff I do now. But yeah, lots of different cars. Seen all kinds of different cars and vehicles and racing options in this one. The 911 GT1. Ooh. That's a nice car. I don't know, I kind of like this Hawaiian take. Like, it feels similar to if you played Horizon 3, which was Australia. It feels kind of along those vibes, which I think is interesting. Like, I'm assuming some people will definitely remember Horizon 3. I know it was quite a while ago at this point, but, you know, that was a pretty cool one. So it's kind of getting to that level. I'm kind of thinking almost that Ubisoft beat Xbox to doing one based in Hawaii, because it fits the style of play really well. Like this one, like literally when I say like it's like Horizon, it really like there's like concert type stuff in the backdrop and parties going on. You know, you got your like race central. It's kind of like that, but a little lighter because you're not really like unlocking new. So there's like main event areas and stuff, and you know, like I mentioned, some multiplayer type things, but like it's not like Horizon where you're kind of like building out the festival, if that makes sense. Like you're kind of just, the festival's like a backdrop thing for 2 seconds, and then you go and you do your own driving and whatnot. I can't believe I fell so far behind these guys. That is not ideal. I will be trying to catch up. I do like that the racing is a little bit dynamic in this one though, because you get to visit like You can kind of go off on branching side paths for some of the races, so it just adds a nice little angle to this one. But yeah, it all feels pretty good, handles pretty well. I would say even like for Series X or Series S as well, the pop-in I thought might be a little bit worse here, but it's just more like, you know, you still have that like geometry and everything. It just is a lot murkier, which, as I said, you know, if you're on the Series S, it's kind of like you're probably used to that sort of styling, and that's totally fine. Like, it looks right on pace with other Series S titles, but I think this one's performance is something to be like a little bit applauded that they did, you know, decide to do that. I think that's kind of awesome, because it does, you know, look decent, play pretty decent, like frame rate wise, so that's good. But yeah, just a little bit of cleanup on the frame rate and whatnot. But that was bad. I'm gonna go back in time. I don't know. I think they kind of hit the mark on this one. I think a lot of people are really going to have a good time in this one, because even if there is the Horizon competition, from what I've seen with like the crew in the past, that series does still do very, very well. I mean, it had a little bit more of its own identity. I think this one kind of leans on Horizon a bit too much, but like, I think that might actually help sell it even more, because people will be like, oh, it's fun and easy going, and you drive on the beaches and stuff, which I think is pretty enticing for people. Yeah, even Horizon, though, we haven't been to, well, because Mexico did have some beach area, but you know what I mean, it wasn't quite like Australia, which was very, very beachy and, you know, kind of vibing like that. But yeah, I'm impressed by this offering on this one. As I said earlier, I literally, I don't check out everything on Series S, but I'm always like, if there's a new game coming out and I go take a look at it, it seems to be the wildest mix of like, it's either gotten proper development support or it's kind of like thrown to the side a little bit. So it's nice to see ones where I'm like, okay, they took the time to you know, make her look nice and everything and run well and all that, so that's good. Yeah, aside from the performance issues, but it's not terrible. It also seems like most of the grass stuff, like, it doesn't seem like too much geometry is actually like removed from this one, which is kind of impressive. I do think that there's a little bit more like, it's not as sharp too. I mean, obviously with the low resolution it's not going to be, but something I kind of noticed. But it's all sort of pure and lively and whatnot. Does the traffic disappear when you're flying on Series S? There's like one car over there. I don't know, there's some traffic. It's a little bit of popping. Like, flying is always a little bit more demanding, right? Because you're moving a little faster up in the air, so it's got to like kind of showcase a bit more than if you're just kind of driving on the street, right? Oh, that was close. Thought for sure I was gonna hit that bridge. I was gonna be like, oh no. But yeah, like a pretty well crafted adventure in Hawaii. Something I think you can like really have a lot of fun with, sink your teeth into. I've really been liking this, so I think lots of people will too. Doesn't quite have that addictive sort of like catch that I think Horizon does, but I think if you like the crew too, you're gonna really feel at home with this one and have a lot of fun with this one. If you're new to the crew series, this is a good option to get into it, because it's got great mixes of like serious racing, casual racing. Like, there's a lot going on in this one. Yeah, I like it. It's cool, solid. It's a solid racing game. Good open world one. If anything, I'm kind of hoping, and you know, I'm sure it's a lot of effort for these companies to do this stuff, I'm hoping we get to see more open world racing options, right? Because typically racing games are more like circuit based and a little smaller in scale, so it's neat when we do get to see a larger kind of open world offering, because open world racing games can be a lot of fun because they give you the freedom and seriousness of doing the racing, but also like the casualness of like taking her easy and not having to do anything too wild. So yeah, Motorfest seems to be a fun Hawaiian vacation that I'm thinking a lot of people that like racing games will enjoy when they jump into this one and see what it has to offer for them.